محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبعد. Yesterday we were talking a little bit about how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam and Muslims face certain obstacles and challenges in the early stages of Islam. Inshallah, today we're going to be talking about how some of the events that happened in the early stages of Islam, not the immediate, like first 5 years, right? They faced a lot of persecution, a lot of challenges, but things started to pick up a little bit, and then it was like ebbs and flows, right? So today we'll talk about the asylum in Abyssinia. We'll talk about the acceptance of Islam or Umar and Hamza which made it a little bit more bearable, but then other challenges came after that. Alright, Ibrahim, bismillah.
The persecution began slowly but gradually increased over time. Even many of the noble Muslims with clan ties being targeted. The the Messenger of Allah recommended that some believers migrate to Abyssinia. This line, which is across the Red Sea in Africa, was just run by a just king known as
Negus or Najashi.
Over the dozen Muslims, both men and women, migrated. Even the Prophet's own daughter, Ruqayya, with her husband Uthman. However, the furious Quraysh sent two envoys.
Envoys? Envoys are like representatives, delegates.
Abdullah ibn Abi Rabiullah and Amr ibn al-As to try to secure the extradition through bribery and misinformation.
Extradition is when you try to get somebody from another land. So if somebody commits a crime in the United States and they say, let's say they run away to India or they run away to Pakistan. The United States government has the right to contact the government in those countries to bring that person back. So Amr ibn al-As, at this time he's a non-Muslim. Right? He goes on behalf of the Quraysh to Abyssinia to try to get the Muslims back. If there's any sisters, if they want to change the input on the TV, they can see the screen as well. So what did they do? Osama, continue.
He began by presenting special gifts to Mecca to the advisory council of the king. They addressed the
Negus is a title. Like Fir'aun is a title. Fir'aun's not the person's name. Like you say the president. Right? The president is a different person. And Negus and Najashi, that is the title of the person. Of the leader of that Abyssinia.
Some young fools have sought refuge in the kingdom. They left the religion of their people, but they didn't enter your religion either. They have come with a fabricated religion, neither of us recognize, but neither of us recognize it. The noble men among the people have sent us to you to return them home. They are their parents, uncles, and family members, and know better what to do with them. The advisors of the king agreed and told the king that he should send the Muslims back. The Negus became furious and despondent that he would not extradite someone who sought asylum in his kingdom without hearing them out. So he called them and asked them to explain themselves. Ja'far and a few of the prophets got up and spoke.
It's more accurate. Ja'far is a cousin of the Prophet. Alright, so what do? They bribed the advisors of the Najashi. Because they knew he was a fair person. But they went to his advisors and his council and they bribed him and said that, look, we have gifts, we all exchange leather together and things of that sort, and we'll take care of you, we'll help you. Just get us in with the Najashi and give us a good word with them. Okay? So Najashi was a very just person. The question some people ask is, how did the Prophet ﷺ, can you see it from there or no? Is it working?
No, I can't see it.
That's okay, you can see it from, yeah, you can open the thing. You gotta see the thing, yeah, go ahead. So, if you look at the question is, how did the Prophet ﷺ know? Some people say it's through Ayman, who was the caretaker of the Prophet ﷺ. She was originally from an African origin, things of that sort. So Ja'far you never know what would have happened, and the Seerah, they are very close to Ja'far because he's from the family of the Prophet ﷺ, Ali's brother. But he was a person who's the screen's not working, Jonathan. The screen's not working. The input's not working. That's fine. The screen is not working, so they're gonna look from here. Yeah? The TV, the thing is, the thing's not working. So where was I? So I said Ja'far radiallahu anhu, they said he looked most like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he spoke like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay? And you see that how he speaks here, very eloquent, very beautiful words. Westray, go ahead.
Dear King, we were an ignorant people. We worshipped idols and ate the meat of dead animals. We were used to lewd behavior, breaking family ties and harming neighbors. Strong among us oppressed the weak. That is how we lived, until God sent a messenger to us, whose nobility and honesty we had been fully aware of. He called us to worship the only God and give up our inherited worship of statues and idols. He told us to speak the truth, fulfill promises, keep family relations, and be kind to neighbors. He forbade us from evil, bloodshed, shamelessness, lies, and deceit. He told us to stop the misappropriation of the property of orphans and avoid false accusations.
What does misappropriation of property of orphans mean? Good question.
Taking property recovery.
Yeah, taking their wealth that is supposed to go to them and using it in other ways. Right.
He told us to pray, give charity, and fast. We believed in Him and acted on His teachings. So we worshiped only God and no one else. He forbade what was forbidden to us and made lawful what was made lawful to us. This is why our people turned against us, tortured us, and tried to make us return to worshiping idols instead of God and consider lawful the indecencies we used to do. So when they oppressed us and we couldn't take it anymore, we sought protection in your land. We chose you over others, hoping that we would be safe here and not oppressed.
Yes, subhanAllah, you see that this is a very good example. It's in a paragraph of the transformative power of the Prophet ﷺ, teaching of the Prophet ﷺ, how he transformed the society, right? How that has the potential. Any society that a person goes in, there's going to be good aspects and there are going to be bad aspects. But what Islam does is that it transforms the bad aspects and leaves the bad aspects and enhances those good aspects. So if you look at it, subhanAllah, the way that he told them, first he told them what not to do. And then, okay, if you stop doing the bad, then you're going to find yourself with time, right? With resources, ability. Then what should you do? Right? Pray, give charity, and things of that sort. All right, the king asked Ja'far radiallahu anhu, go ahead. What should continue?
The king asked Ja'far, do you have any of these verses with you that are supposed to be from God? Replied Ja'far, the king wanted to hear the Quran, so Ja'far wisely selected some passages from the chapter entitled Maryam, who was the mother of Jesus. He knew the king was a devoted Christian, so he recited.
All right, before I go on, there's different narrations of how this happened. One is that first they told them that, okay, this, and the king said you can stay. Then the Amr ibn al-As and others, they went to the people around them and they said, look, we bribed you, we gave you guys gifts, you guys need to help us out. So they said that, okay, tell them what they believe in Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, that they don't believe Isa alayhi salam is divine. So that another narration is that the next day they gathered together and then the king asked them, do you have any of this revelation? Do you have anything that it says about Mary or Jesus in your scripture? So then Ja'far radiallahu anhu read this. And it depends. Each one has the same end point that these verses are recited, but the how is a little bit different. All right, let's have Muzammil, go ahead.
Mentioned in the Quran the story of Mary. She withdrew from her family to a place in the east and secluded herself away.
It says, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَرْيَمَ إِذْ انْتَبَذَتْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا مَكَانًا شَرْقِيًّا.
We sent our spirit to appear before her in the form of a perfected man. She said, I seek the Lord of mercy's protection against you. If you have any fear of him, do not approach. But he said, I am but a messenger from your Lord. Come to announce to you. I am but a messenger from your Lord, come to announce to you the gift of a pure soul. He said, how can I have a son when no man has touched me? I have not been unchaste. And he said, this is what your Lord said. It is easy for me. We shall make him a sign to all people, a blessing from us. The king and the court bishops who were present were so moved that they began to cry.
Negus?
Huh?
Negus.
Negus then regained his composure and said, these verses are what was given to Jesus. These verses and what was given to Jesus are two rays emanating from the same light. He then turned to the two Meccan envoys and told them what he would never extradite the Muslims, that he would never extradite the Muslims. They were free to stay and worship in Abyssinia for as long as they wished.
Alright, so what does this mean? What does it mean? These verses and what was given to Jesus are two rays emanating from the same light. Same source. They're both wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who gave wahi or revealed to Isa alayhi salam, the same one who sent revelation to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, so in this regard, the Muslims in Abyssinia, how would you classify them? Are they immigrants? Or are they something else? What do you think? There's a word. Huh? Refugees. They are refugees. Right? They're seeking refuge in Abyssinia. And who gave them refuge? Huh? The Negus, right? What was the race of the people that gave Muslims refuge? Huh? Yeah, Abyssinian. They're black. Right? The early Muslims in our history, they sought refuge and they went to Abyssinia and the people accepted them openly. The fact that, subhanAllah, many of the Muslims become so racist towards black people, it's something which is it's disgusting on many different levels, but it just shows us, subhanAllah, that the Muslims found comfort with them in the early stages of Islam. And how long did they stay there? Anybody know when they came to Medina? Alright, so this is what? The 5th year of prophethood. Look, this is the 5th year of prophethood. Alright, so when did the Prophet ﷺ migrate to Medina? 13 years, right? So 8 more years in Mecca. And then they came around the 6th or 7th, after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, they came to Medina then. Right? Because they were there with them in the Fath of Mecca. During the Battle of Mu'tah, in the 8th year of Hijrah, they were there. That's where Ja'far becomes Shaheed. So if you have 8 years, so about 16 years, they stayed in Abyssinia. Right? 16 years. Some of them came back. Most of them, Uthman and others, they came back relatively quickly. But the Muslims as a whole, and when did they leave Abyssinia altogether? About 16 years after this incident. And that's how they found refuge. Because, look, also another thing that we learn from this is that Muslims are to provide benefit and be a source of comfort wherever they go. Whether as immigrants, whether as refugees, we try to make the society better, not cause problems or harms. If they cause problems or harms, then what would happen? They'll get them out of here, right? But they provided benefit to the society that they were in. Okay, it seemed like the Quraysh had failed, but envoys would not give up so easily. Amr came to Negus and the next day and said, Did you know that they insulted Jesus by calling him a slave? The king was taken aback. Had he been so easily deceived by these Muslims? The matter required investigation. The Muslims were summoned again and asked, What do you say about Jesus, the son of Mary? Ja'far took on the position of spokesman once again and responded, We only say what our Prophet ﷺ taught us. Jesus is a servant of God and his messenger. He is his word and spirit that he inspired to the Virgin Mary. The Negus bent down and picked up a small stick from the floor and said, By God, Jesus did not say anything more than the length of this stick than what you have said. The king returned all the gifts to the 2 envoys and sent them home. The Muslims were granted asylum and the envoys returned to Mecca unsuccessful. On hearing the good news, more Muslims migrated and their number reached around 100 in Abyssinia where they lived for several years. Many noble Muslims migrated as well to live in peace and security. So the Prophet ﷺ allowed, right, people to leave and he allowed people to go back and forth. And some of them went for a little bit, but then they came back and helped the Muslims in Mecca. So all of this did happen. Alright, some relief. Salman. Let's have someone.
It was difficult to keep calling people without results, but the Prophet ﷺ had to persist. One day in the 6th year of the mission, Abu Jahl verbally abused the Prophet ﷺ and insulted him. He was one of the worst enemies of Islam and did his best to stop the message. But the Prophet ﷺ did not respond to his insults and went home. Hamza, one of the uncles of the Prophet ﷺ, was returning from a hunting expedition. He was a soldier by nature and was known for his bravery and strength. As soon as he approached the Kaaba, a woman who had overheard what happened notified him of the incident concerning his nephew. He went straight to Abu Jahl and hit him over the head with his longbow. Then he said, You dare insult him while I'm with his religion? Say what he says. Come on, hit me. Abu Jahl decided to close the issue. It is unknown whether Hamza's reaction at the time was out of tribal pride to protect his nephew or a genuine acceptance of Islam. Nonetheless, soon afterwards, it was clear that his heart had changed and his and he sincerely accepted Islam and changed his ways. His acceptance of Islam came as a great shock to Makkah. Hamza's Islam proved to be a great source of strength for the Muslims and would help ease his persecution.
Okay, first, number one is that Abu Jahl. What does that mean? Father, ignorance. Do you think that his name was really Abu Jahl? No. His name, the Muslims named him that. The Mushrikun, he was very respected in the society. They used to call him Abu Hakam. They used to call him the father of wisdom. But Muslims changed it. Rather than because he's stubborn and arrogant, the Muslims used to call him Abu Jahl. Okay, but his name was Abu Hakam among the people. His kunya was Abu Hakam. His name was Amir, real name is Amir. Okay. Alright, so subhanAllah. This incident, we can learn that people may accept Islam for reasons that aren't the most genuine. But their Islam can grow over time. That's why we don't have the right to judge why a person accepts Islam. Right? Hamza radiallahu anhu, who was Sayyid al-Shuhada, the chief of the Shuhada, who was martyred at Uhud. Did he accept Islam because on theological basis that he understood what Tawheed was, he understood what Risala was, he understood the Akhirah was? No. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought him to Islam for means that, he was just like, okay, you insulted my nephew, I'm with him, that's it. But then his Islam grew. That's why there's so many times when you read in the Seerah of the companions of anhum, or the biographies of the companions, they say, Aslama thumma hasuna Islamu. He accepted Islam, then his Islam improved. Then Islam grew on him. Right? And that's why the famous incident with Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu, when Usama radiallahu anhu was about to bring a sword down on a person during a battle, and he said, La ilaha illallah, and Usama radiallahu anhu ended up going down on him. So later the companions, they complained to the Prophet ﷺ. They said, Usama radiallahu anhu did this. He said, Usama radiallahu anhu told the Prophet ﷺ, قَالَ مَخَافَةِ السَّيْفِ. He didn't say it because he was really Muslim. He said it because he was afraid of the sword. So the Prophet ﷺ said, هَلْ شَقَقْتَ قَلْبَهِ. Did you open up his heart and see why he said it? So Usama radiallahu anhu said, I wish I accepted Islam after that day. Right? Because I was so remorseful about how I acted. But this happens. Sometimes people accept Islam. We don't know the circumstances. We may assume the circumstances. But does that mean that Islam won't grow on that person? Islam won't be entering their heart and they may become one of the best of Muslims? We never know. Alright, let's have Rosé. Yes, with most companions, right?
Most companions and others were badly in need of some more severely. In Muhammad's addition to the Muslim community only served to strengthen Islam. The Prophet
شيخنا تتصوت لك صراحة بارك الله فيك السلام عليكم السلام عليكم Good.
Islam, whichever of the two is more beloved to you, Abu Jahl or Umar ibn
Khattab.
al-Khattab. Both these men were strong enemies of Islam and regularly used to persecute the weaker Muslims.
They tortured the Muslims. Umar radiallahu anhu used to torture the Muslims.
Abu Jahl was crafty and had much political clout, while Umar was tough and feared throughout Islam. Both men seemed to be lost causes. One Muslim had even remarked, it is more likely that Al-Khattab, Umar's father, donkey, would accept Islam before Umar would. But only Allah knows what sin a person is.
Yeah, SubhanAllah. Think about the Prophet ﷺ. Used to be the positive attitude, the optimism that he had. That the two biggest, among the biggest enemies of Islam, the Prophet ﷺ did not think they were beyond guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He made dua. Whichever of the two Umar, right? Amir and Umar, they come from the same root. Is more beloved to you, guide them to Islam. Right? Abu Jahl or Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. And the people are like, seriously, are we making dua for them? And sometimes that happens, right? We make dua for some leaders, that Allah guides them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them tawfiq and hidayah and protects us from their evil. You're like, why are you making dua for them? Make dua against them. The prophetic method was that you make dua because in their islah, in their rectification, there's going to be great, great benefit. Alright, go ahead, Marzik.
Umar was known to be a heavy drinker and used to engage with his friends in business competitions. One night he went looking for some friends to get drunk with, but he couldn't find anyone. Instead, he decided to go to the Kaaba and worship the idol.
This incident is the most authentic narration of how Umar radiallahu anhu accepted Islam. The other one about Taha and stuff, that's a little bit weak. This is first person account. Alright, go ahead.
the words of Allah. How little do you believe?
From Surah Al-Haqqa, وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ. He was thinking, these are the words of a poet, and immediately the Prophet said, وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ. These are not the words of a poet, how little do you believe? Good.
Umar was shocked. Then he said to himself, this must be it. But before he could finish his thought, the Prophet recited, nor is it the words of how little do you reflect?
He was about to say, وَلَا بِقَوْلِ. He was about to say kahin. He was about to say kahin, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it, the Prophet said it before him. وَلَا بِقَوْلِ كَاهِن قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. You guys know what kahin is, soothsayers? You hear this term a lot, but does anyone know what it is? Yeah, someone who interacts with the jinn, right, does like magic, and the jinn tells them information about some of the aspects of the unseen. Right? So they'd say he's a sorcerer or someone who does magic and magician, type thing. Alright, go ahead.
This is a message sent down from the Lord of the world. Umar was now dumbfounded, for that is exactly the excuse he was going to make. This incident softened his heart for a moment towards Islam. It was probably his first step towards ever considering it seriously.
So that, and then the next narration is about how he went to his sister, and that is historically, it doesn't mean the standards of hadith, but it's something that is mentioned in historical books. Let's have this, go ahead.
But Umar radiallahu anhu's anger soon made him forget whatever temporary reflection he might have had. He continued his hobby of torturing innocent Muslims until one day he decided to put an end to this matter once and for all. Nu'aym was a man who had managed his Islamic secret. He happened to be walking down the street one day when he spotted Umar radiallahu anhu carrying his sword in a fit of rage. "Where are you headed, Umar?" asked Nu'aym. To kill Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, put an end to this nonsense. He responded furiously. He was shocked because he knew that Umar radiallahu anhu wasn't joking. He tried to think of a way to protect the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. No one else seriously considered killing the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because it would mean that they would wage war on the entire climate of Hashim and the entire life. But Umar radiallahu anhu was a man who was determined that his own life didn't matter. Once he made up his mind to do something, why don't you take care of your own family first? Responded Nu'aym. What do you mean? Reported Umar radiallahu anhu. Nu'aym would never deliberately put the life of another Muslim in danger, but he thought to himself that the safety and security of the Messenger of Allah takes precedence over everything. Your sister and your husband have become Muslims. Umar radiallahu anhu immediately changed his destination and went straight to his sister's house. Fatima radiallahu anha and her husband, had managed to keep their Islamic secret. Knowing that Umar radiallahu anhu would persecute them if he were to find out.
Alright, Fatima radiallahu anha is Fatima bint Khattab. Fatima bint Khattab radiallahu anha is the sister of Umar radiallahu anhu. Her husband, who's her husband? Sa'id ibn Zayd. Sa'id ibn Zayd is one of the 10 promised paradise. Right? He's a cousin of Umar radiallahu anhu.
Umar radiallahu anhu heard the two of them recited Quran from outside and barged into the house that began to beat Sa'id radiallahu anhu to a pulp. His wife interfered and tried to help her husband, only to receive a strong blow from the infuriated Umar radiallahu anhu across the cheek. "Yes, we're Muslims, so do whatever you want," she exclaimed. It was only when Umar radiallahu anhu saw the blood of his sister's face that he began to feel some remorse. "Let me see what you were reading," inquired Umar radiallahu anhu. Fatima radiallahu anha had managed to hide the paper from which the Quran was being read before the intruder had entered. After some hesitation, she gave it to him. Umar radiallahu anhu was one of the few people in Mecca who were illiterate. As he began to read, his mood changed for the positive, and he remarked, "This is excellent." This was the first time Umar radiallahu anhu had actually attempted to understand the message of Islam with his mental shields down. He was immediately convinced and wanted to declare Islam in front of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Fatima radiallahu anha could see that something had changed in her brother, so she told them where the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was, and he declared Islam that very day.
SubhanAllah. It is said, I don't know if this is historically accurate or not, but Umar and Hamza radiallahu anhuma, they were mashallah, mashallah, they were like people that were very strong and they were very bold and courageous. So it is said that you always have this thing about Umar radiallahu anhu and his physical dominance. So it said that when Umar radiallahu anhu came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to accept Islam, Hamza radiallahu anhu was with him, with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were worried. They're like, Umar's here. Did he find out what Dar al-Arqam is? Remember Dar al-Arqam was their private hiding spot? So they saw Umar there. And Hamza said, let him come. If he comes with noble intentions, we'll accept him. If he comes with ill intentions, I'll kill him with his own sword. So you see how they had that rivalry in their courage. So when people saw Umar and Hamza accepted Islam, they're like, why do we need to be scared now? Right? Why do we need to hide Islam? Alright, let's have Rashad, please.
He did not keep his Islam a secret. He went to the enemies of Islam and told them one by one that he had become a Muslim. They were enraged, but there was nothing they could do because they feared Omar. Because of both Hamza and Omar, the Muslims were able to worship openly at the Kaaba without the Quraysh being able to do anything about it.
So what happened here now, some people, they came and back from Abyssinia. They said, okay, we can worship. And sometime, another incident that happened around the same time, the Prophet ﷺ recited Surah Al-Najm, which we'll recite tonight. And the last ayah of Surah Al-Najm is a sajda. And when the Prophet ﷺ recited that, everybody, Muslims and non-Muslims, everybody was still taken aback by that. They all made sajda. So rumors started to spread that the mushrikun had become Muslim. So some of the people from Abyssinia came back, and then they realized, no, this is not true. Now people did become Muslim. Yes, the situation has improved a little bit, but they're still hostile. So many of them did go back, and others went back, and so that some ended up staying. Okay? All right, go, Rashad, continue.
Political tactics, bargaining, and pressure. Seeing that neither ridicule nor persecution seemed to stop the spread of Islam, the Quraysh attempted another strategy. They figured that they could win the Prophet ﷺ over through negotiations and or bribery. However, their idea of negotiating meant that sometimes Allah will be worshipped and other times the idols would be worshipped, so it seemed like a win-win situation. To such a preposterous idea, the verses were revealed. Say, disbelievers, I do not worship what you worship. You do not worship what I worship. I will never worship what you worship. You will never worship what I worship. You have your religion and I have mine.
So what is this? Right? So okay.
The revelation made it crystal clear that there would never be any compromise in the fundamental principles of Islam. The essence of the Islamic message is to only worship Allah and abandon all other deities. Even a slight violation of this essential tenet would lead to a wholesale negation of Islam.
This should be like highlighted, written with gold. This is a principle that we should have for all aspects of our lives, every time, every generation. And look, it's not that we say interfaith is very important, right? Interacting with people, helping people, common good goals are very important, but it should never come at the expense or the compromise of our faith. If somebody says, okay, you accept what we worship, we accept what we worship, we accept your right to worship what you worship, but do we agree with its principles and its tenets? No. Right? And you should give us the right to worship what we worship, but does that mean we expect you to accept what we worship? No. Right? So this is what it means. You have your religion, I have mine. Okay. Let's continue. Go ahead.
With negotiations supposedly out of the picture, the Quraysh resorted to pressure tactics. Abu Talib, despite his refusal to accept Islam, was constantly defending his nephew's right to propagate his message. As leader of the Hashim clan, he was a respected chief among the Quraysh and prevented anyone from touching the message of Allah sallallahu. The other chiefs of Quraysh knew what had to be done. They went to Abu Talib and told him that his nephew is insulting their gods, mocking their religion, and revolting against their culture. They ordered him that he must stop protecting Muhammad sallallahu or suffer the consequences. Abu Talib went to the Prophet and said, "My nephew, your people came to me complaining. So make things easy on both of us and don't overburden an old man beyond his capacity." The Prophet ﷺ responded with full confidence, "My dear uncle, I swear by Allah, if the people of Makkah bribed me by giving me the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I would not give up this mission." Overwhelmed with emotion, tears began to roll down the Prophet's cheeks. Abu Talib, moved by his determination, responded, "My nephew, say what you want to say. I swear by Allah, I will not give you up for anything."
SubhanAllah, you see that, Abu Talib, although he was a non-Muslim, he still supported the Prophet ﷺ in his right to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'll find that throughout history. I remember a few years ago, there was when they banned, or they were finding women from wearing niqab, I think it was in France. There was a non-Muslim man, right, who said that he'll pay the fine for any woman who wants to wear niqab. And you always see that. You always see that there are some non-Muslims that they may not agree with people on the tenets, right? The tenets of what a person does, but they'll support the right to do it, right? I'll give you an example. I know in some Muslim countries, I mentioned this before, that the beard. Sometimes if you're going to the airport, they'll give you a scissors there saying your beard's too long, cut your beard before you can come into the country. Right? We've had friends who have experienced this firsthand. But in non-Muslim countries, they don't agree with the beard, they don't even know the Prophet ﷺ, but they'll fight for your right to allow you to have the beard as long as you want. And you see that happens, tabi'ah, right? So that is something that we have to understand and acknowledge. That just because a person is Muslim does not necessarily mean they're supportive, and just because a person is non-Muslim doesn't necessarily mean they're anti or they're oppositional, right? And that's what we find in Abu Talib. Alright, boycotts and sanctions. Just read this part. Quraysh were getting frustrated. They had tried every possible way to stop the message of Islam, but the more they tried, the more Islam continued to spread. Something more drastic had to be done. Some particularly Islamophobic leaders of the Quraysh held a secret meeting in which they decided to boycott the clan of Hashim until they agreed to hand the Prophet over to them. Not everyone was in favor of such drastic action. This is very important here. Listen to it. But the loudest and most stubborn voices managed to silence the others. An agreement was signed that both the clan of Hashim and their close allies, the Muttalib clan, would be boycotted by the Quraysh. No one would be allowed to buy, sell, or intermarry with them. Right? Although people disagreed, it was that loudest voices, that vocal minority, right, that kind of got their way. Despite the fact that many members of the clan had not accepted Islam, their allegiance to the decisions of the clan took precedence, and they put up with the sanctions. Times became tough, and many people went without food and water for days, as if they had been hit by a famine. Food had to be smuggled in secretly by some good-intentioned humanitarians of Mecca. Despite the difficult circumstances, the Prophet ﷺ persisted in calling people to Islam. The situation lasted for 3 years, until some of the Meccans decided that it was enough. 5 men came together and formed an advocacy group to challenge the unjust boycott. They managed to effectively have the document cancelled after 3 long years of oppression. And one of the people that was instrumental to ending that boycott was a person named Mut'im ibn Adi. Mut'im ibn Adi, he was also a non-Muslim. He was a non-Muslim. His son, Jubair ibn Mut'im, becomes Muslim later on. But Mut'im ibn Adi, he was a non-Muslim that helped end the boycott. And after the Prophet ﷺ went to Taif, the Prophet ﷺ needed assurances that he would be safe in Mecca. Right? He's the one who gave the Prophet ﷺ assurance. And he told them that anybody who attacks the Prophet ﷺ or wages war on the Prophet ﷺ, they're attacking Mut'im ibn the Adi clan. So he was a non-Muslim, but the Prophet ﷺ had respect for him. In the sense that after the battle of Badr, the Prophet ﷺ said, if Mut'im ibn Adi asked me to free these people, I would have freed them for him for nothing. If he just asked me to do it. Because the Prophet ﷺ acknowledged and appreciated what Mut'im ibn Adi had done. Okay, year of sadness. Why is it the year of sadness? Because this is the year in which Abu Talib and Khadija radiallahu anha pass away. And you see that here, many of the historians and scholars say that, of course, the boycott had an effect. If you ever go to Mecca and you see Bab al-Salam, and then you see the library, right, of the Haram, you see a library there, that's where Prophet ﷺ was born. Then you see a little bit elevated, it's like a little passage, right? It's a little bit elevated, right? That's where they were. They were boycotted in that area. So you can still see, if you go, someone who takes a walking tour of the Haram, then you can see where some of these areas are. Alright, second question? Good, your status.
The ban may have lifted, but now Abu Talib was ill and nearing his last days. Within a few months, he was overtaken by chronic illness. His situation deteriorated and he was confined to bed. Before he breathed his last, the Prophet would try one last time to get him to reconsider Islam. He entered his room and pleaded, "My dear uncle, at least say that there is no God besides Allah, so that I can bear testimony for you in front of Allah." Before Abu Talib could even consider the idea, 2 influential men from Quraysh were also present in the room and responded, "Abu Talib, would you abandon the religion of your father?" Abu Talib had to weigh the pros and cons of such an important decision. If he accepted Islam, he would lose the honor and respect of both his clan and tribe. Furthermore, he would probably be accused of making such a hasty decision because of his fear of death. But if he rejected, his name would live on as a great chief among the Quraysh, who remained loyal to his family and tribe. Abu Talib made his decision. he would stay on the religion of his forefathers. The Prophet was grieved, but he responded, I will keep asking Allah to forgive you until I am forbidden to do so. Soon afterwards, the verses were revealed. It is not fitting for the Prophet sallallahu, alayhi wasallam, and the believers to ask forgiveness for the idolaters, even if they are related to them.
ما كان للنبي والذين آمنوا أن يستغفروا للمشركين ولو كانوا أولي قربى من بعد ما تبين لهم أنهم أصحاب الجحيم. Into the Tawbah. Right? That after a person has passed away, it's not allowed for a Muslim person to make dua for a non-Muslim relative after the person has passed away. Okay? And then the next ayah, you read the next ayah?
You Prophet sallallahu, alayhi wasallam, do not guide everyone you love to the truth. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who guides whoever He wills. He knows best those who will follow guidance.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. That message of Allah sallallahu, if the Prophet sallallahu couldn't guide the ones that he loved, right? And guidance comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This, in a certain way, it gives comfort and solace to every one of us that we all have limited capacity. Right? We would love for everyone to be guided. We would want sometimes we have our relatives, people that are close to us, that they're doing things that we don't agree with and that are detrimental. But guidance is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can advise, we can give nasiha, we can try, we can make dua, we can cry. But tawfiq comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had the ability and responsibility which he fulfilled to show the path. No one has the ability to inspire someone to take that path and go on it except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright, go ahead, let's continue.
The revelations made it clear that Allah does not approve of anyone asking forgiveness for someone who died in a state of disbelief. Allah has given every person the freedom to choose whether to accept or reject the message. The decisions that people make are part of the test of the life. If the Prophet were able to bypass the decision of someone he loved, like his uncle, the exam would serve no purpose.
This right here, this is an important theological point that sometimes we fall into. The Prophet says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we cannot make dua for somebody who's died in a state of disbelief. And just for us, sometimes, when people pass away, whether they're Muslim or not Muslim, people say rest in peace. Muslims, we shouldn't say that, so be quiet. We can say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that to Allah, we can come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will return. You can say that. As far as rest in peace, then we don't know. Right? You don't have to make dua against them, but you can't make dua for them either. Okay? All right. A few months later, what happened to someone?
Only a few months later, the Prophet lost his beloved wife Khadija as well. He later remarked about how much he missed her company. She believed in me when people disbelieved. She accepted me as truth when people called me a liar. She even aided me with her own wealth. Since Khadija was the first one to believe in the Prophet, perhaps even before he believed in himself, she was given the good news of paradise before she died. The demise of Abu Talib had immediately outward consequences for both the Prophet and the mission. His hostile uncle took this opportunity to target his nephew. He forced his own two sons to divorce their wives, both of whom were the daughters of the Prophet. Even Abu Lahab's wife partook in the persecution by scattering thorns in the pathway of the Prophet, the pathway that the Prophet was likely to walk through. Things became difficult, and this time the Prophet had no wife to fight.
Why did the persecution intensify after Abu Talib? Because even Abu Lahab, he's out of respect for Abu Talib, people relatively took it easy on the Prophet ﷺ. Right? Think about it. Everyone has a different family dynamic. But Abu Talib was like a brother that other brothers, they might not agree, but they respected him. Right? Once he's gone, Abu Lahab took advantage. Right? وَامْرَأَةُ حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ. Right? فِي جِيدِهَا حَبْلٌ مِّن مَّسَدٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about his wife in the Quran as well. Yeah.
How did Khadija die?
Khadija, natural causes, but some of the scholars and historians, qadar Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But some of the historians say that boycott, when they didn't have food and things, had an impact on both of them, right? And that's why it would be. That's why it's important to bring that point up, because when you think about the process of forgiving them, it wasn't just about him, right? His wife, his uncle, everybody was affected by that. All right, go ahead, Sam. This is the last session.
On one occasion, Abu Jahl was sitting with some of his friends near the Kaaba when he spotted the Prophet praying. I dare one of you to get the guts of a camel and throw it on Muhammad when he goes into prostration, said Abu Jahl. Uqba ibn Abu Mu'ayyad took on the challenge and went to fetch the filth. He returned just in time to catch the Prophet going into prostration. Without hesitating, Uqba emptied the entire container of filth with the intestine of a camel onto the Prophet's back. Abu Jahl and his buddies burst into laughter. One of the Prophet's companions, Ibn Mas'ud, was watching but couldn't do nothing. The Prophet ﷺ remained in prostration, continuing his prayer, until his daughter Fatima came and cleaned the filth off of his back. Only on this occasion the Prophet ﷺ raised his voice and prayed against them. Allah, destroy Abu Jahl, Uqba and everyone like him. Another incident occurred again at the Kaaba, while the Prophet ﷺ was praying. This time Uqba wrapped his sheet around the Prophet's neck and began to strangle him. The Prophet was caught off guard and couldn't breathe. Abu Bakr happened to be nearby and rushed to the scene. He pushed Uqba away from the Prophet, from the Messenger of Allah, and shouted, "Would you kill a man just for worshipping Allah?"
أَتَقْتُلُونَ رَجُلًا أَن يَقُولَ رَبِّيَ اللَّهُ. That's Ali radiallahu anhu. That's a verse mentioned in Surah Ghafir, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about a person from the family of Fir'aun that concealed his iman. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and this he didn't conceal his iman. He said that Ali radiallahu anhu said Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu is better than that person, and this is based on this incident. Alright, go ahead.
It became open season to taunt the Prophet ﷺ, now that his clan protection was virtually gone. It became a common experience for the Prophet ﷺ to find his neighbors dumping their trash right in front of his house. People would interrupt him while he was reciting the Quran by shouting and yelling. Another man even childishly threw a handful of dirt on his head. Fatima began to cry when she saw this, to which he responded, don't worry my daughter. Allah will protect your father." The Prophet ﷺ was informed by Allah his mission would eventually succeed, but he didn't know when. Seeing such persecution, even a respected man like Abu Bakr decided that it was time to migrate to Abyssinia. However, while he was on his way to Mecca, a well-respected chief decided to grant him full travel protection and remain. But one thing was clear: Mecca seemed like a lost cause. It was now time to look for another place which could accommodate the continuation of the mission.
Yeah. So one of the narrations about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he was going, one of the chiefs of Mecca said that I'll grant you protection, but on the condition you don't read the Quran publicly. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he used to pray in like the courtyard of his house, so he used to read, and people used to hear him. And he said, no, this is how I read, I want to be able to read like this. And he returned his protection to him, and he decided to remain in Mecca. So in this environment, the Prophet ﷺ decided to try to find an alternative, and this is why the Prophet ﷺ tried to go to Taif. Inshallah, we'll pick up from here tomorrow. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، نشهد ان لا اله الا انت، نستغفرك ونتوب اليك.